Hi, friends. So we're back again like a bad smell.
That's not a nice thing to say.
And so it's the 29th of December at 2:40 p.m. on a Tuesday. So we're coming to you from the future, which is always a good thing and an interesting thing.
Yes.
And sorry we were late. I was
Were we
trying to
late?
organize some flowers for my brother's funeral, and their website wasn't working, so that was not a happy thing to have
Real
to do.
fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So anyway, we're back to No Man's Sky because it's not very taxing on Dee Dee, who has to play it and try and talk. Hi, Jeffrey. How are
Hi,
you?
Jeffrey.
I hope that it's going okay on the Sunshine Coast and everything is satisfactory considering the
Considering
circumstances.
everything. Yes.
Considering everything. And we've been having good thoughts for you at this kind of trying time. And so we noticed, if I can just go over to US politics for a moment, and sort of I noticed that Carl Kalinske, who has the secular, I think it's Secular Talk, he was saying that there's been some movement on the $2,000 inclusion in the fiscal stimulus. Of course, it's all political games between Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi to force and for Nancy Pelosi to force Mitch McConnell to kind of out himself, that who is, if he does not approve this $2,000 a month thing. So, but whatever the case, whatever the event of that, and whatever unfortunate motivations these people have, these politicians have, it would be really good if that did go through, that $2,000. Now that's the least they can give them. $600 was a slap in the face. $2,000 is the very least that they could give US citizens at the time of a pandemic when they're unable to work because they've been told they can't work. But there you go. So who knows what's going to happen with that, whether Mitch McConnell will kind of mess up the current elections in Georgia by refusing to pass that $2,000, but there you go, that's sort of up to him. It shouldn't be about, of course, whether Georgians get his Georgia GOP party selections get sort of elected. It should be about the people, but of course with the duopoly it's never ever about that. Anyway, so having good thoughts that their motivations are irrelevant and that actually it does get passed and people get the very least they need to get by for a little while. It would be great if they gave them more, but be lucky if they get that. So anybody who feels like dropping in, please do. We just talk about anything and everything, or nothing at all, or just watch the No Man's Sky game that Dee Dee's playing, and she's doing all the work, and I'm just prattling along. So, and we decided to do these live streams between, Christmas and New Year's Eve, because there are people who are a bit isolated, and there are people who don't have family to go to, and there are people who have family to go to, and it's a nightmare. And then there's the small few that have family to go to, and it's okay. So anyway, whatever the case, it's great if you can just join in and say hi and talk about whatever you want to. And occasionally we might divert to political stuff, anti-imperialist
because
stuff.
We're full of all that
because
sort
that's
of stuff.
that's what this channel is mostly about. It's not about domestic electoral politics or anything, but the reason I mention those
games,
things,
really.
Yeah,
That's why we're playing this
the reason I mention those things is because it directly affects people in the United States in a very serious way during this pandemic. And I'll just check and see if it's coming through okay on the television. You might want to say just a few words so I can do a sound check, Dee.
Okay, well, I'm talking now. Here we are in a little planet I've just named Durango because it looks very deserty and there's cactus and things.
Yeah, that works out.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeffrey, how's it been going?
He said good, thank you,
Oh,
before
good. That's good.
you asked.
And yeah, so
Okay. See if I can.
I
get
hope
these
that
birds. Oh, look, there's some other birds.
Furious Psyops and maybe even Empire Babies everywhere will consider dropping by, and maybe Bird Worldist.
Empire.
If
babies,
anybody
I think.
sees Furious Psyops drop into the chat, if you could let me know, because I
Because
have
Trish
trouble
can't
seeing
see
him due to a technical difficulty with YouTube. We both have trouble seeing one another, so I might have to come in as another username so I can see him.
It's very weird the way YouTube disconnects certain people, even though they've given no indication they want to be disconnected, and can't seem to figure out how to be connected where they can see each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll
So I
just
don't
save
know
this.
if you happen to check out the most recent
We'll talk to
video
this
I
guy.
did, which I posted about 8 hours ago, something like that, or 6 hours ago, about Sergeant Kevin Benderman, sorry, who was a conscientious objector and was really heavily vilified by even the chaplain of his unit, who was poo-pooing that, and it didn't even read his reasons why he was a conscientious objector. This is back in about 2005. He joined the
Thank you.
army just before 9/11, and so then and he joined the army, he wasn't doing it via a poverty draft. He was wanting to be a professional soldier, and then he was kind of horrified when he actually was deployed to Iraq, and they were expecting him to terrorize, which is what basically what happens in Iraq, terrorizing the civilian population, little old women, like somebody's grandma, who's like, he was a really big man. I think he's like a towering figure, and he said he just thought it was so wrong what he was doing to the civilian population. And at one point, when there were some Iraqi children who were on top of a rooftop, and they were throwing things, some stones, some pebbles, at the U.S. soldiers, because they weren't happy with them, of course, occupying their area.
Why would they be?
Yeah, they set up their command thing in one of the buildings there, and his commanding captain told him that if they came back again, to shoot them, and these were 10-year-old Iraqi children. So that's the kind of, this is something that's not an aberration, and these are the ones you hear about. There'd be probably thousands and thousands of stories just like that, from not only US soldiers, but also, if they were allowed, if they came forth, but also UK and Australia. And you probably heard of oh hi, Terra Toddler, how are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you. Yeah, so it's probably a it's not an aberration, and so people need to realize these are not rogue soldiers that do this kind of thing, that this is normal, completely normal, in not only Iraq but in Afghanistan and elsewhere. Yes, it's lovely that you're around. We thought we would do it at Terra Toddler. We thought we would do it at this time because this is sort of like in the evening in on the East Coast in California. So we thought it might be good to do it sort of earlier rather than sometimes we do it about five hours from now. But everybody it would be in the middle of the morning. So how are you? How has your day been? Jeffrey, who's in the chat, he lives on the Sunshine Coast, and you live somewhere in the United States. I can't recall where that is, but anyway, doesn't matter. So, well, thank you for thinking of us, he says. Anyway, how are you managing with the very, very poor fiscal stimulus, financial support, Terra Toddler? Are you, is that something that's affecting you, or are you lucky enough for that not to be affecting you? It's a long answer, so it's probably affecting you. You don't have to if you don't have to if you don't feel like it.
Yes.
Yes, it's affecting everyone.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Did you hear that Bernie Sanders has said that if Mitch McConnell doesn't pass that $2,000, that he is going to withdraw his support for the military funding or something, and therefore that would mean that they'd have to stay there over the Christmas, New Year's period. So he's kind of finally using some leverage. I don't know if that worked. I don't know how it's going so far, but it basically outs Mitch McConnell. If he doesn't pass this, that's going to affect the Georgia elections. But Bernie Sanders has said he's not going to, pass these things like pass the military budget and all that kind of stuff if they don't do something about it. So finally he's using some leverage. What took him so long? It should have been way back before he committed to Joe Biden, but there you go. Better late than never. So let's hope that works. It might work. Yeah, I saw that on Kyle Kulinski. He was talking about that. He said that could work out, and wouldn't that be great? I mean, 2,000, of course, is the bare minimum that they could. Hi, Mad Mum. Yes, just Terra Toddler said, just can't put faith in what is going on in Capitol Hill, especially just in one politician's gesture. Exactly. Yep. It's really, 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 really cruel and awful and disgusting what's going on. Of course, nobody ever really pushes back on. None of the Democrats, they always approve any, sort of military spending, but.
And any kind of austerity.
Yes.
Basically, any austerity program or any anything that limits so-called entitlement.
Yeah, the amazing thing is there's absolutely no question when it comes to military funding, they just all go for that. Anyway, just a dreadful duopoly that needs to go.
I need to hide in this for a little bit more.
Yes, there's no saviors. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, certainly not the Democratic Party.
Do you spend time with family around this time, Terra Toddler? Hello, Adam. I hope you're feeling well.
Hi, Adam.
I hope you got a good night's sleep the other day. Yep, just got off work. Oh, nice. Oh, okay, so you normally, Terra Toddler says you normally do, but not this year. Yeah. And sometimes that can be kind of a relief for some people, can't it, Dee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes, having a break from the stress of trying to talk to people who you never normally spend time with, that can be kind of a bit of a relief in some ways. But then, of course,
Depends on what the relationship is to your family.
yeah, depends on what your relationship with your family is, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. So many people have not great relationships, and
Yeah.
even the ones where it isn't horrible, often have, it's not necessarily comfortable.
Yeah.
You have to make an effort.
And but no one's on. You're not
Don't
on the
stop.
verge of, homelessness, are you, Adam or Jeffrey? I think Adam's been lucky enough to be able to work through this time, which is great, Adam, that you haven't had to stop work.
That's right, there's a big cave here.
Yes. Dee Dee is in Australia. I am too. We're both in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And it's going pretty well here in Australia, cross fingers. The federal
is.
government was going to handle it badly. We could see that from the beginning. And then the state governments came in and thought, F you, you're not going to F everything up for us. So they started to organise properly, didn't they, Diddy?
Yep.
And work together. And just recently there was an outbreak in New South Wales, and there was about a few dozen people got COVID, and they've been incredibly good with the contact tracing.
Yeah,
And
basically
People have been coming forth, haven't they, Didi?
we end up with outbreaks when generally it's been the flight crews who've infected people.
Yeah.
Where people are returning to Australia or whatever. I have a question regarding the culture of Australia and media. We have an incredibly concentrated media. It's in very, very few hands, and there's almost no alternative Australian media. And of course we get the internet like everybody, but
But it's all run by Rupert Murdoch, and I don't have
Mostly.
a clue. I barely have a clue what's going on in Australian politics. Do you, Didi? Because they're not really
I have some
forth.
idea.
You do? Oh, well,
A
Didi
little
has
bit.
some idea because she used to work in the WA Greens Party as a
I used to
policy
work
writer
in the Senate.
in the Senate in the late 90s and stuff, and she
Yeah.
still writes legislation on occasion for the Labor Party, the the State Labor Party. But I mean, right now, I don't think there's any real independent reporting on what's happening, the sort of corruption and all of that. But you can kind of see just by the way they're behaving, particularly when it comes to when the US wants them to start turning on China. They're like a school of fish. They immediately just turn that way, and they've been vilifying China, haven't they, Didi?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I would say one of the major things is that our Prime Minister we have, of course, a parliamentary system here. Our Prime Minister is an evangelical Christian, and I think he's pretty much he believes in the rapture, and is pretty much along with Trump. You know, he's into he's a big admirer of Donald Trump, and also seems to be, oh, there's birds out there that I haven't identified. Hang on, I have to go scan some birds.
You have to excuse me. I'm eating some. Dee Dee made some lovely vegan Christmas cake. So the unfortunately, there's always a level of racism towards Chinese people in
Asian
Australia.
People in general. I mean,
and all it needs to do is have a little bit of watering by the media. Well, not a little. They just full on watering basically. The Sky News and all the Murdoch press. Basically, any press seems to be going down that path, doesn't it, Dee Dee?
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much to ignite that anti-Chinese racist stuff, even anti-Asian. And so that's now heading into full bloom because you've got the government doing it.
There we go.
The government vilifying China at every turn. It's like they treat them like one big monolith. And
they go along with every bit of American propaganda.
Yeah.
They've jumped right into, like sponsoring things for the United States in the UN to investigate China for creating the virus.
Yeah.
And all of that sort of stuff.
And then everything that, the US sort of gives a nod to, they will help, boost that particular narrative. So, and
it's particularly stupid since China has been our major trading partner for decades. Basically, it buys most of our raw materials, our coal and our iron and our wool and all of the things we dig up, shoot, or what's the other one? Shoot, dig up, or
what's that?
What's cut down? Yeah, basically, there's a saying in Australia that our economy is based on what we can dig up, cut down, or shoot.
Yeah.
And that's not untrue.
No.
And we have almost no industry since globalization. Our car industry and our steel industry and all of that has gone abroad, mostly to China. So we're buying steel and all that stuff back from China. We export most of our stuff to China, including beef and sheep and God knows what all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here we and wine, and here they are alienating China and kind of jumping on with and actually doing the U.S. dirty work in the UN, and so China's gotten pissed with us, rightly, and it said so, and Morrison, the Prime Minister, and the federal government has been stupid and kind of fired stuff back and exacerbated the situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Oh,
there's a lot of people.
What kind of elections are held in Australia? Paper ballot.
Yeah.
Basically, paper ballot are. We have a lot of local polling booths, and the Australian Electoral Commission keeps track of where people are located. And when you go in, it's generally a very short distance away. There's almost no waiting time.
Yep.
You walk in, you get your paper ballots, you put it in a box. There are people employed by the Electoral Commission, and then every party is entitled to have scrutineers who are watching the counting.
Yeah.
And particularly any vote that is deemed ineligible for any reason.
Yeah.
Because the principle of our elections is that everyone has to vote, and every vote that can be counted must be counted.
Yeah.
And that means even if people muck it up part way down, we have a system, a preferential voting system.
Ranked choice voting, yeah.
where ranked choice is what they call it in the United States, where
Yep.
you say, this is my first preference, this is my second preference, this is my third preference, and so
Yep.
on. So
Yes,
the way
and
that
you can get like 27 or 30 different parties running, can't you, Didi?
yeah, I mean, there's two houses. It's a bicameral system. There's the House of Representatives, and if you are in the House, then usually there's only 4 or 5 parties. There's usually only 4 or 5 candidates.
Yeah. Oh,
But because
sorry.
the chance is, if you're a minor party, you're not going to win, because each local area, you only elect one person from your
Yeah.
House of Representatives. So minor parties aren't going to get much of a look in. But in the Senate, it's taken over the entire state, and if you achieve a quota, which is a sixth of the number of people in the state, or sometimes if it's a double dissolution, it's even less than that, then your party will get somebody elected. And so there's lots and lots and lots of minor parties, and it goes from the Greens and right-wing parties like, what's Hanson's party? Australia First?
One Nation.
One Nation. One Nation. There's Australia First. There's the Sustainable Something Party, which is actually a racist anti-immigration party. There's also the Green Party. There's been the Women's Party. There's been the Sex Party. There's been, which is basically a very liberal, good party, and also they're dealing with rights around sexuality and
What's
the
that?
rights of the Sex Party.
Oh, yes.
The Sex
yes.
Party has been actually very good.
Yes.
Its policies have actually been excellent.
Can you imagine having a sex party in the United States?
Yeah, we had a WikiLeaks party in some states for a while.
Didi, can you answer this one?
Which
I
one?
meant to say, just before you answer that, Didi, Hillsong gives support to Scott Morrison. That's the Evangelical Christian Party, which I don't think they're homophobic, aren't they, Didi? Or
Yeah.
they don't quite. Anyway, so they're very, very wealthy. They've just opened some offices in Manhattan and New York City, and they have, I think, other places worldwide. It's going to be a typical, massively wealthy evangelical Christian thing, which curries, which ends up working in tandem with the neoconservative parties and supporting them
Hillsong
financially.
is, I think, not overtly homophobic like some of the religions.
I bet you'll go that way, though.
But it's one of those ones where it's love the sin or
Excuse
hate
me.
the sin sort
Yes.
of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're not really very good.
No. And so Justin Bieber supports the Hillsong in Australia, and he's got heaps of money, like $500 million or something. It's usual these celebrities always end up picking these evangelical wealthy parties to support. Tara Toddler was saying demographically,
Yeah, I was just
how does
about
his
to answer
support
that one.
manifest? Okay.
Demographically, you have to understand that in Australia, because it's a parliamentary system modeled on the US, we don't elect a prime minister. We elect people in the House of Representatives, and the party in government elects a prime minister within itself. They come to an agreement who within their party will be the prime minister and who will be the ministers and so on. And so we never, although people are aware that Morrison is an evangelical and he's going to be the prime minister in an election, people are actually voting for their local person, and sometimes their local person is even more right-wing. You have people like Peter Dutton, who's really a fascist thug, and he's in charge of, God, what do they call it now? He's in charge of the equivalent of Homeland Security, the Australian Federal Police, immigration, and he's created this thing called Border Force, which almost immediately...
He'd be like Ernst Röhm for the brown shirts, if you could liken. He'd be kind of going that direction. Oh, did I turn my phone? There you go.
He's awful. And the thing with electing a party to rule, the one that has the majority or can get a majority of support within government, they can change and do occasionally change prime ministers. Like they got rid of Malcolm Turnbull, who was a prime minister who actually believed in the global warming, and who was more liberal culturally, and put in basically it was the party was hijacked by the evangelicals and the Christian right, and anyway, you get various really Christian right people who get elected in various areas because they're Christian right. I mean, we don't have a huge thing with Christianity here, not like the United States, but it's becoming more of an issue. I mean, basically, hi Kim, basically they're trying to create an influence base they're trying to create an influence base in Australia, the evangelicals and the Christian right. But Australia's been kind of pretty notoriously secular. It doesn't like... Catholicism is the major religion, although in the last survey of religion, the majority of people, the biggest class of people were people who said no religion, they don't believe in God. The biggest religious group has been Catholicism, followed by the Church of England, the Anglican Church, which was at one point, well, I guess it was never the official religion. It was the official religion, of course, of England. But in Australia, we've always had more distance between the church and the state. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of people who came here were poor or convicts, and a lot of those people were Irish and were Catholic, and then we've had huge waves of migration from Italy and other places. So you have a lot of Catholics, people who identify themselves as Catholics. But, you know,
I was a Catholic once.
Yeah. and the thing is, you know, when I say identify as Catholics, people might identify as Catholics, but for example, in the marriage equality survey, you know, something like 70% of Catholics said they favored marriage equality, even though the Catholic Church was overtly out there, you know, opposing that. I think you wouldn't find many Catholics who follow the precepts of, you know, no divorce or no remarriage after a marriage breakdown, or what are some other things that they wouldn't follow? They certainly use contraception. They certainly will.
Yeah, but I don't think they're really into they're not supposed to be.
Well, they're not supposed to be. What I'm saying is that in spite of the fact that they're not supposed to be, I would say the majority of Catholics wouldn't have any hesitation to get divorced if they didn't get on. And they probably wouldn't have any real hesitation. There wouldn't be a lot of them that would have a hesitation about getting remarried if they found somebody they loved. Scary
Oh
how many
my!
Americans
You
are
were kicked out of Sunday school at age 5. Well, that's
Who was
nice
that?
of them.
Who was kicked out of Sunday school?
Jeffrey.
Oh, no. Oh, goodness. The Schofield Bible.
Wow,
I haven't
Jeffrey.
even heard of that. Oh. But I mean, there are certainly groups. It's like here in Tasmania, there's a group called the Exclusive Brethren, which is a real, women aren't allowed to vote. Women aren't, even though legally they're required to vote. But where they're not supposed to, they don't have any say. Children have to be brought up in the religion. They mostly homeschool and stuff like that.
I don't know how long the Exclusive Brethren have been in existence. Do you, Dee Dee?
I think they've been here for a while.
As in
I
like
think it's
20
like
years?
60, 70 years.
Oh my, really?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of them in an area of northern Tasmania. I mean, I don't think they're a widespread cult.
Yeah.
I'll call them a cult
Yeah,
because they're very cult-like.
yeah. They tend to
Um,
live up in northern Tasmania, don't they, Dee Dee?
Yeah, yeah.
Lucky we didn't move up there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, certainly not into the area that they live.
Yeah,
We
no.
lived in northern Tasmania for a little while.
I don't think they're very gay friendly, are they?
They're absolutely not. They're absolutely not. Occasionally you get, like, there's that pastor who came in from New Zealand who was talking about gay people should be shot. There
Yes.
was actually, during the marriage debate, an Orthodox
We have some wackadoo
minister
people here.
who said gay people should be shot at the funeral of a woman who was a lesbian.
Oh, wow.
And that was utterly disgraceful. That
Which
kind of
one was
made
that?
the
He
national
wasn't in
news.
politics, was he?
What?
He wasn't in politics,
No,
was
no,
he?
no. He was a priest.
Oh, wow.
He was
Oh,
an
that's-
Orthodox priest.
Oh, my, okay.
Yeah, Greek Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox.
Oh, he sounds like he's not quite mentally all there. That's
well,
not...
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so, but, that there
Tim, yes,
they're not
Australia
a whole
has
lot of people.
mandatory voting.
Yes, we have mandatory voting here, thank goodness, and it's paper ballots. There's
Yeah.
none of this electronic voting machine nonsense.
Yeah, and it gets done really quickly because there's
Yes.
so many voting centers.
We have it within hours, don't we? We have an idea
We have
within hours.
for the House of Representatives, where there's usually only 5
Hey,
candidates.
Bird.
We certainly do.
Hey, Bird.
Occasionally, when it's really, really, really close, and you've got write-in votes that take a little while, it might take longer. But that's usually 1 or 2 people
Yeah.
in the
We're
country.
talking just about the
Bird.
mandatory compulsory voting in Australia, Bird, and the and also that we have preferential voting, ranked choice voting here. We don't have
Yeah.
any electronic voting machines. We have supervisors in every station. It only takes probably about 5 minutes, doesn't it, to vote? We don't have long, long lines of people.
No.
It is very, very, it's intended to be incredibly friendly and
easy.
user-friendly.
Yeah.
And we have like about 30 to 40 different parties to vote for. Some of them are really
in the
nuts.
Senate, yeah.
Some of them are like really right wing,
Yeah.
and some of them are like
We
what was the
something-
name of that party? The
Which one?
Automobiles Party or something?
Yeah, we have the
We
the
have
car
some really
parties,
funny
the,
parties. You have a look and have a real
we have the
laugh.
fishermen and shooters parties, and
Yes, but we have a party called the Sex
have a-
Party, which is actually a very good. It's
yeah,
actually
that's a really good
it's
party.
very sex
That's-
positive.
well,
and
not just that; it has really good
yes, and it
policies
has
on
other policies.
imperialism
Yes.
and migration and the treatment of refugees.
Yes.
it's actually a really excellent.
It's
party.
actually a really good party.
I think
It's
they've changed
unfortunate
their name now.
they should what?
I think they've changed. Their
I hope
name.
so because like
Yeah.
that would put people off and they think
Yeah.
it was just about sex. But
The
yeah,
Australian
they
system
have
is
really
good.
really good policies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have parties like there was one in the last election, the something sustainability party,
The gr-
which
did
sounds good and sounds green until you realize that their notion of sustainability, they're one of these people who give overpopulation issues a bad name because in fact they were racist and it was an anti-immigration party. So it's basically a racist, because nobody when I say anti-immigration, there's heaps of stuff about migrants, but it always seems to be non-Anglo-Saxon migrants or non-Northern European migrants that
Hey,
people
Didi,
are concerned about.
I don't know if you can show Bird's comment. Isn't that amazing? You've just got the word sex in there, and they won't allow it, Bird. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah,
What, you're not allowed to even mention sex now in a live chat?
No, they wouldn't.
I can't approve that.
For some reason, I can't.
Yeah, anyway, I've shown what Bird said. There was something that Jeffrey said, which was just calling...
Oh, you put it in. Okay, good.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
I mean, holy...
Yeah, it is.
The amount of words now that they have, that Google... That they censor is just ridiculous.
I mean...
You can't talk about American fascism. You can't talk about...
My second profession, after doing all the global development stuff, I became I did a master's in sexual health. So you can imagine, trying to do anything on sexual health, which of course would be, actually about information. It's not about anything about sexy stuff or anything like that.
No. So they have changed it. I wonder what they changed it to.
I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, the Australian electoral system, at this point, unless they try to mess with it because they want it to turn into the shit show that's in the United States has, unless they don't mess with it, it's actually quite good. They have a lot of supervisors. You never ever hear anything remotely like, oh my goodness, there's been electoral fraud or voted suppression or people being purged from the list because they've got, names like Alvarez or something like that. You never ever hear any of that nonsense, do you, Didi?
No.
And they have the election results usually within even like a 12-hour to 13-hour period, unless it's incredibly close, which it usually isn't that close that they don't have some idea by...
Oh, usually they have a pretty good idea,
Yeah.
Occasionally we've had elections where it really is like it's 50 votes or something one way or another. But that tells you something too.
And they also do at different election booths, even though we're vegan, but they actually do they do sausage sizzlers at the election booths, don't they, Didi?
Yeah.
So that people will come down and have something to eat. It entices people to come and eat something before they vote. Which, so it's...
Most of the major parties are there passing out how to vote cards.
Yes.
To try and say how they want people to mark their preferences.
Yeah.
Which ones they approve of and which parties they don't.
Yeah, we tend to do a postal vote thing because we want to look up every single of the 30-plus parties and see what these people stand for,
who these people are,
and kind of really take our time filling it out. So we tend to do it like that.
Yeah.
Rather than picking there's an above line which just has the parties, and there's the below line which has about 40 or something parties.
You can vote above the line, which means you say, I want my preferences to go along the way the Labour Party says it should go.
Yeah.
And the Labour Party will determine your preferences.
Yeah.
Or whatever party you vote for above the line. But we recommend that everybody always vote below the line because the parties do weird bloody deals.
Yes, they do.
Like they will...
In the preferential stuff.
They will get the Fishermen and Shooters Party to vote for them in exchange for giving some preferences for somebody else. And that's how that Automobile Club Party actually got a senator up.
Yes.
In one election.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's starting to be money. There's the state party, the state government here gets funding. Like, is there a limit to funding from outside sources, Didi?
I don't think so.
No, and that's a real problem.
I think that's been a hotly contested issue.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want there to be some limit on
I'm shocked that there
funding.
Isn't already. Like, like that's just begging for bribery. And,
Yeah.
you know, so anyway, the Labor Party here, there's two major parties as usual. There's other parties here, but the
Well,
state
there's
government...
probably three major parties counting the Greens. I mean,
That's
the
true.
Greens has enough
The Greens, yeah.
of a presence, so it usually gets, you know, somewhere around 15% of the vote, and that it also ends up with people in federal parliament in the House. It always ends up with people in the Senate, and
Yeah.
quite often they hold the balance of power. The Senate, because there are so many different parties, you end up with the party who's in control of the House is usually not in control of the Senate,
Yeah.
and it is somewhere where neither of the two big parties are in control of the Senate, and they have to get support of minor parties, which makes it fabulous as a house of review, because people can come and talk to the small parties,
Yeah.
and the small parties, if the small parties, like when I was in there, one of the things I was actually working for the Greens WA, which was at
Western
that point
Australia.
separate
Western.
from the Australian Greens.
Yeah, it's Western Australia.
Western Australia.
Yep.
Yeah. And at that point, I mean, we were saying we will not do cross-issue deals. You know, they can't come to us and say, well, we'll give you a bit more forest in this forest agreement if you vote for us with this austerity measure,
Yeah, yeah.
which is the kind of thing that they try to do and were doing with the Democrats before.
Yeah. F you.
And yeah, F you. And that meant that they actually had to argue their issues on the floor,
Yeah.
on each of the amendments and so on. And it made things much more, it wasn't, you know, you do a done deal behind the scenes, and then the floor votes and so on were just a chance for different people to do speeches.
Yeah.
But everybody knew how it was going to go. Instead, they actually had to argue the issue a lot, and that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Kim says there's a 420 party here in Quebec. I'm guessing is that a 420 parts per million for CO2, or is that, what's that?
So,
Bird says, was the Australian Prime Minister who is suspected to have been assassinated by the CIA?
no, he
And
wasn't
no, he was-
assassinated, but he may as well have been. Because
There was one who wasn't. There was some suspicion he might have been assassinated. He went for a swim,
oh, that one.
and Holt.
Holt,
Howard
yes.
Holt, yeah.
Yes.
Holt went for a swim and vanished.
But he was a liberal, wasn't he?
And
Did
he was a liberal. He was
a conservative, so I don't know
Yeah.
if they'd want to knock him off.
As we've said before, Australia names its parties ironically. It
Yes,
seems.
ironically.
The Liberal Party is actually the Conservative Party, and right now they're kind of really right wing and a bit evangelical. The evangelicals seem to have taken control of it, and they've been anti global warming stuff, and yeah.
Yeah. What? Do you remember
Morrison
what he was
actually,
for? Did he?
I think, not
Did he?
really in
Do you
favor
remember?
of doing much for COVID. It's just all the state premiers said, "Fuck you, we're doing it anyway."
Do
on
you
a state
remember what
basis.
Harold Holt was for? I think that was too early for me. I was in
Yeah,
my
no,
childhood then.
Yeah, I
No, I don't know what he was for really, but he was a liberal, so he was a conservative. So I don't know if they'd really want to knock him off. I think that was actually just a
I think that was
terrible-
actually a
terrible
horrible
accident. But who knows?
Yeah.
You know, who knows really?
Yeah, Gough Whitlam on
he
the
may
other
have
hand.
he may have been having private talks with someone about something that the CIA and the US wasn't
Yeah.
happy with, and they intervened in some way, you know. But the Gough Whitlam was definitely he was a
the
democratic
last
socialist.
He was the
PM.
last real Labour Prime Minister
Yes.
worthy of the name.
He was.
He was a socialist, and he was talking about buying back the farm
Yeah.
and monitoring foreign investment and industry.
Yeah. He was
and
against the Vietnam War.
He pushed for Medicare, the creation of our
Yes, which we
public health
still have,
system,
even though they're trying to destroy it.
free university studies.
Yes.
Merit-based university studies.
You could go to university and do multiple degrees, couldn't you? Free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew
I did.
many people.
I didn't pay for my degree.
Yeah, I knew
Um,
many people that did 2 or 3 degrees
Yeah.
for nothing. And that's what he was like. And of course, you can't have that. The US wasn't happy with that. They weren't happy with his anti-imperialist stance. They weren't happy that he supported indigenous rights and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's actually documented now all the steps they took to get rid of him, and they were successful.
Yeah. We mentioned that Australian, the native people of Australia, the often called Aboriginal people,
Yeah, he was.
were classed as fauna
Yes.
until 1967. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I
Or
was 7 years
68.
old, and they were still classifying indigenous people as fauna,
As non-human.
non-human. Can you
Yeah.
believe it?
And I mean,
And they used to talk about them in the history book like as if they were some past civilization that didn't exist.
yeah. Jeffrey says golf
a
was against
fetishized
US
way.
bases like Pine Gap. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that is probably the reason.
Yeah, that's right.
Because McMahon actually was
Prime Minister
negotiating-
McMahon.
No, what's his name? The
Billy McMahon. No,
general.
that's the Prime Minister.
what do
Who?
you call- Governor General.
John Kerr.
Oh,
John
John
Kerr.
Kerr.
Yeah.
Kerr was actually in negotiation with the CIA and the Americans.
Yeah.
That's kind of a thing of record about Pine Gap,
Yeah.
because Pine Gap is a huge spy base and a center for directing missiles and things
Yeah,
like
so
that.
John Kerr he was the Governor General at the time, and we still have this ridiculous thing where the Governor General can dismiss the Parliament with the approval of the Queen. And it turned out just recently letters were released that John Kerr actually didn't even consult the Queen.
No.
Said that she was too busy and he didn't want to disturb her
Yeah.
while he decided to dismiss the whole Parliament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's outrageous anyway.
All of our laws, when the Parliament passes them,
Yeah.
have to go to the Governor General, who's the representative of the Queen, for the royal assent. Yeah.
Yeah, the royal.
And,
I mean,
and
here
laws are not legal until it attains the royal assent.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah.
Anyway, sadly, Gough Whitlam is not alive. He was born, I think, in the same year that my father was, 1911. I think he was born in that same year. Anyway, so no, he's not alive. But he was a class act, wasn't he, Dee Dee?
Yeah, he was wonderful.
Yeah, he was really good.
Five Eyes is definitely very concerning.
Yeah.
Australia's just passed laws, not only a lot of anti-whistleblower laws, but laws that allow them to monitor the metadata of all citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Oh, they
very
did that a
concerning.
few years ago too, didn't
Yeah, that
they?
was a
Now,
few years ago.
now we're actually being monitored for our metadata, but you can guarantee if they
Yeah, they
decide
passed that a
to,
few years ago. Yeah. They passed that a few years ago.
yeah, and if they decided to, they'd do a lot more than that if they wanted
and
to.
the thing is that the Labour Party supported that.
Yes, the Labour Party.
I mean,
This is our neoliberal Labour Party.
after Gough was thrown out by the Governor General,
Yeah.
was dismissed, and the dismissal is a huge issue. I think there's been
They-
documentaries named the
They
dismissal.
blocked supply so that he couldn't do anything, basically. And then they made a deal to never ever do that again, because they didn't have to worry then, because it was a neoliberal mess ever since, hasn't
Yeah,
it been?
basically the next Labour Prime Minister, Hawke, he invented New Labour,
Yeah.
and Tony Blair's kind of took the Australian model,
Jesus.
and it was basically neoliberal.
Yeah.
It kind of abandoned any of the social stuff. It actually was working. I'd say it's actually pretty much anti-worker.
Yeah.
They did all kinds of strange deals with the unions because the
Excuse
unions
me.
still have a big role in the Labour Party.
And I wouldn't be surprised, Bird, if they didn't start bringing in that bogus definition of anti-Semitism in Australia, and that you can't do the BDS thing and you can't criticize Palestine.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, because we just bring in whatever's going, whatever the US wants us to, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
Any
no.
old kind
I
of
mean, we
rubbish.
back even the Australian Labor Party backs Juan Guaido. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
And every so often I ring them up and tell them how disgusted I am about the way they're treating Julian Assange, disgusted about them backing Juan Guaido. They don't care.
Yeah.
And they just have these flak catchers in the offices.
They more or less back Israel and stuff like that. They've never seen an American war that they
yes, there's
not
never
happy
an
to-
American war they don't like. This is
jump
the
on
Labour
board
Party
with.
and the Liberal Party. I mean, they're basically going to end up like the US situation of just fusing together and
Yeah.
working in tandem, because they're all careerists, really.
Yeah.
They're not as bad. The Labour Party isn't as bad as the Democratic
And-
Party, but it's
and-
going that way.
And the Labour Party is better in on the state level sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Here in Tasmania, it certainly is.
What's
like
that?
our state-based Labour Party is much better than the federal Labour Party,
Oh yes, our state-based Labour Party here in
which of course means that any politician in the state who wants to move to the federal politics is in an invidious position.
what's that, Diddy?
Any state-based politician who wants to move into federal politics is in an invidious position,
Oh yeah,
because basically the federal Labour Party is, I don't know, it's just corrupt. It's just bad.
it really is. And Bird was saying Australia's role in Afghanistan is very horrible. Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And it's not, and the thing is, they're trying to make out as if it's some aberration, and that really doesn't normally happen. They kill lawfully most of the time, and then there's these unlawful, in quotes, killing. And the lawful killing is actually really just killing people that are trying to drive out the occupation of the US empire and its allies. I mean, that's what they consider lawful. Killing insurgents, in quotes, people who just want them to get the hell out of their country. So I have a real problem with the way it's framed in Australia.
Yeah.
And even Nick Xenophon, who's supporting David McBride, the Australian whistleblower who was in the military and who blew on these crimes. And war is a crime, but just calling it these individual acts a crime. He's going to be, he's going to be tried early next year, and he could spend his life in prison. But Nick Xenophon frames it in a way. Nick Xenophon is his lawyer, and he frames it in a way of the lawful, unlawful BS. And I really have a problem with the way everything is, the narrative of this whole thing.
Yeah. It's all right to kill these people, but, or it's already right to kill people in this
Hi,
way.
Lima. Yep. Yeah, and there's not even any discussion about any of these wars that we're in. There's not in the corporate-owned media. There's no discussion about why we're there, what we're doing. It's all just taken for granted.
Basically, the anti-war movement's almost died in the ass after that huge march in 2003.
Yes. I marched in that march in Sydney in 2003. Yeah. There were thousands of people marching in Sydney. That's where I was at the time.
Yeah.
Thousands of people.
All around the country.
And they just ignored it. John Howard was the Prime Minister then, and he just ignored it. They had absolutely no intentions of taking any notice of any protestations of any of the Australian public, did they, Didi?
No.
They were just going to go ahead and do whatever the fuck they wanted. How are you, Lima? Where are you from, if you don't mind my asking? So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
That's that. I suppose
Anyway,
we're talking
all
too
this
much now about
talking
politics.
a lot about Australian
Talking
politics.
too much about Australian politics, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, it's all been very sad since Gough Whitlam was helped ousted by the CIA.
Thankfully, we still have
It's been sad.
Public health.
Yeah, we still have public health, but they're trying to do their best to, like, they make it
Erode
so
it.
that the waiting lines, the waiting times for, things are very, very long. So if you really, really can't, be bothered waiting, like if you don't want to wait for like 6 months or something before you can have a surgery, it's best to have health insurance.
This is particularly for elective surgery.
Elective surgery,
Anything
yeah.
deemed
Emergency,
elective
they
surgery.
will, fortunately,
Yeah,
they
I
will
mean,
just
Trish
do it.
was able to have her surgery pretty much straight away.
Yeah, when I had to have my hand fixed because I broke my wrist badly in the beginning of the year. I had to go on a bit of a waiting list, like they were trying to slot me in, but they were still considered it an emergency because if it's set before they'd fixed it, they set it themselves,
They'd have to break
it would
it
have been really problematic for me. So I had to wait about 7 days. I was doing nil by mouth after nil by mouth after nil by mouth, and sometimes even turning up at the hospital, and then they'd have to turn me away. But finally, after 7 days, they did it. And then I got another surgery about 3 weeks ago to take the metal plate out because it was interfering with movement in my hand and fingers. And so that and all of that for nothing. I got it all for nothing. Not 1 cent did I have to pay for those 2 operations.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's
Which
we
is
still have
wonderful because we don't have a lot of money.
Yes, that's right. We live from, we kind of on a shoestring, aren't we, Didi?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But Lima said John Howard, war criminal. Yes, it was morally devastating to be ignored. And she said, I'm good. Thanks for the stream. Sydney in lockdown on the northern beaches. Oh, are you in the northern beaches,
yeah.
Lima, or are you just in Sydney?
Just in Sydney.
And
or just anywhere in
Bert
Australia,
Wilder
really.
said, I'm glad they were able to help you in a timely manner. Yeah, me too. And I mean, that would have cost like $30,000+, wouldn't it, for both those, Didi? Those operations, that probably $30,000+, don't you reckon?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, at least.
So fortunately, I got that for nothing, and I'm very grateful. Australian government is insane, thinking they should go to war with China. I mean, yes. I mean, seriously. And you know what? We've talked about this before in a live stream a couple of days ago. There are different officials, Australian officials, coming on TV, on corporate-owned TV, going, I don't know why China is blocking us and is increasing tariffs on our wine and stuff, and like scratching their head, pretending, I don't know if it's disingenuous or they're just stupid, scratching their head going, why are they doing this to us? Oh, I don't know, maybe it's because we're constantly saber rattling at them, we're
really.
Sort of being taught, saying the most racist things to them, putting our hands on our hips when they post a meme that's completely appropriate about our meddling in our imperialist war crimes in Afghanistan, and the list goes on. Like, I mean, we've been absolutely vilifying them, haven't we, Didi?
Yeah.
For the last year and a half,
Yeah.
and there's been Asian hate crimes happening. Hate crimes against the Asian community, and here they are saying, I don't know why they're blocking our imports, and why are they charging us, and I think, you've got to be effing kidding me. It's just laughable.
Yeah, really.
Why aren't they doing more is what I'm thinking. Maybe they should be doing a bit of saber rattling towards us to get us to shut the F up.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got 1 billion something people, and we've got, what, 30 million?
Yeah.
They've got a massive population.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, yes, the anti-China fervour in Australia is very alarming, and people are falling for it, and I'm disturbed at even some of the, like Glenn Greenwald falling for the that Chinagate nonsense and stuff. What the hell is he doing? So anyway, it's sort of I think because it's catching on so easily is because there's always been underneath it all this racism about China, the whole yellow peril BS. And I think it very easily is ignited, isn't it, Didi, when you have a concentrated effort by the corporate media and also politicians. It doesn't take much to ignite that stuff, either in the United States or in
well,
and who was it?
I mean, the anti-Asian thing has been so prevalent for so long all around the world. I mean, it's just disgusting.
And recently I saw John Pilger on Going Underground with Ashwin Rattansi, and he was saying it's not surprising in a way. Like he said, the corporate media very rarely ever talk about countries that are in some ways going to be a target of the US. They never ever talk about how they function and what it's really like, and they talk about it in this very, well, in racist ways, and very, I mean, I know growing up in the 60s and 70s, the only things you would ever see about Western Asia was these people on the backs of trucks waving their guns in the air. That was the only imagery you would ever see from any of those.
In the Middle East?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember, Didi.
Yeah.
And that's what even so-called left-leaning shows would do the same thing. You never ever saw any sort of normality. It always looked like it was chaotic and like the Wild West. And that's intentional.
And people shooting in the air.
And that's intentional to make people think that the Middle East is a Wild West, full of crazy people that are really violent, and that's what they want people to believe, and that's what they kept that narrative going over the decades, didn't they?
Yeah.
Through these images,
and through, of course, TV shows and stuff.
Yeah, TV shows, and then the lack of information about China, and the incredible lack of information about DPRK.
Yeah.
I mean, up until, like, I used to think, even up until what's that?
The incredible misinformation.
Yeah, I used to think that the DPRK was a horror show until I realized that it was all propaganda.
Yeah.
And I was appalled when I realized that actually, they've got free healthcare there, and they've got it's actually like there's a number of people have gone there, taken photos. They haven't had a guided tour, and they said things are actually pretty good there. Have you heard that, Didi?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like John Purser,
not just
Preiser,
just kind of leftist reporters.
No.
But I remember seeing a website of this guy who just does tourist things. He said he never thought to go there, but somebody said you should. And so he thought, well, why not give it a go? He looked at it and said, I found out I could go from China to DPRK. And so he did, and he said, I was able to, walk off. I had a tour guide with me, but I was able to walk off and be gone for 2 hours out of their sight and stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody was watching me to make sure I didn't do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing.
Well, I trust John Preisner, Michael Preisner's brother from the Empire Files. He belongs to the Answer Coalition, and he went for a tour over there, and he was he was able to wander around the whole of wherever he wanted to go. There was nobody supervising him or corralling him to go to certain places, and he said, he was pleasantly surprised. He was, he's impressed with some of the arrangements they had, in the healthcare and all of that.
Yeah.
And the cities and stuff. Anyway, so I was kind of horrified when I realized that no, people aren't eating one another in DPRK because there's so much food shortages and stuff like that. I mean, that's the narrative they used to put out, that there was literally cannibalism in DPRK.
Yeah, because everybody was starving to death.
Yeah, because people were starving to death. Now, I'm not saying they don't have problems, but I mean, at least it's nothing like what the corporate media put out.
Yeah.
And they just keep making out as if it's a big joke, that Kim Jong Un is a big joke, and it's so racist. The narrative they keep putting out about that country. It's just disgusting. So anyway,
Jeff says if China actually invaded Australia, I'm guessing he's saying the US wouldn't lift a
they
finger.
probably would only do something if their interests, if it's in their
they
interest
would,
to do
because
so.
they have a base in Darwin, and they have one in Exmouth,
But also,
and they have the Pine Gap. I mean,
but
they
also,
wouldn't
if
want
China,
Pine Gap to fall to the Chinese.
if China set
they'd
up
probably
bases
just-
in Australia, Dee, they wouldn't be happy with that. They wouldn't intervene because they're concerned about Australians.
No,
they would intervene because it countered to their interests. Like they say, the US only has interests; it doesn't have allies, really.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I would see they'd intervene. We're like a strategic point too for Asia, where they can.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of troops in the Northern Territory now.
And that's a new thing.
In Darwin, they've said, and actually now, I think it's Boeing is actually setting up drone bases in Australia. This is something that you don't hear much of, but there's a drone base now in Cloncurry. There are drone bases popping up everywhere, and I bet you not only is this about internal control in Australia, but also has something to do, and they have in these drone bases, they've got drones that can be directed by, say, either an American plane or a Australian plane, can be sort of used to attack certain places in Asia, and not endanger the pilot. They can kind of direct them off into bombing a place without having to put themselves in harm's way.
Yeah.
So that these bases are popping up now in Australia, and Boeing then puts a bunch of millions and millions of dollars. So they sort of, this, like Cloncurry thinks, oh great, now we've got an industry here. Yay, we've got a drone bombing industry here. How wonderful.
Yes, how fabulous.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Weapons industries popping up everywhere in Australia.
Yeah, well, Australia's really pushed its own weapon industry
Yeah.
recently. I mean, there's been that whole huge push to make it a much bigger industry.
And if people haven't checked out the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, that's a US think tank pretending to be an Australian right-wing think tank, who is actually they're actually advising Australian Parliament, and they're just full-on anti-China propaganda. It's just full-on. If you go to their page, and they're funded by the weapons industry, by Boeing, by Lockheed Martin, by Grumman or Grumman Northrop. Why do I always get that confused? Which one is it, Dee Dee? Anyway, and Bay Systems, all of that. They're all funded. They even have their little icons on the pages of
they used to.
the
Didn't
Australian
they take them
Strategic.
off? Didn't they take them off recently?
Oh yeah, I said I noticed I couldn't find them. The first time I had a look, they were all over the place, and now I can't find them. But anyway, they're funded by the weapons industry, so that's fabulous, and that's who is advising the Australian Parliament now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. They found that if they can create these advisory bodies and overseeing bodies and this sort of thing, that it's a way of influencing that's a little less obvious, and you can go to the media and that kind of stuff and say, well, the such and such policy institute says da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I think it's become a real way for U.S. corporate interests and military interests to have have input.
Yeah, well,
major input.
It's almost as bad as the Present Danger China website, in the US. That's pretty awful. It's almost as bad as that.
Yeah.
So I should find that site, the ASPI. So how's everybody going during this period It's not my most fun. I don't really enjoy this time of year. I have to be honest.
No.
Maybe there are other people who do, but I'm not really a fan of this time of year. I wonder if I hadn't come across alternative leftist media, whether I'd be sort of thinking whether I would have gone along with this kind of propaganda about things. I really hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too.
I didn't go along with the Iraq War, so I guess that's something, and I was completely clueless about US politics. But
that's not just U.S. politics. That was Australian politics because we were in it too. I mean,
yeah, but we were only following along with what they wanted.
What the Yankees
we
did.
didn't have any problem.
Yeah.
With Iraq.
Well, really, the U.S. didn't have any problem with Iraq.
No, but they pretended to. They pretended to, right?
Yeah.
Well,
they did have problems with them. They weren't following orders. I mean, they put Saddam Hussein in. They expected him to keep being their boy.
Adam says, I absolutely would. I used to be a Sam Harris stan. Oh no, I only came to my senses like 2 years ago. Excuse me.
Leftists were into the whole.
He's gotten way worse.
Yeah.
He's gotten way worse too, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Sam Harris.
Yeah.
I haven't bothered looking at what he's putting out.
For ages.
He's kind of seems to have kind of lost interest in him, and now they're interested in Jordan Peterson.
Well, I think
until he went on his Valium bender.
Jordan Peterson.
What's that?
Too. I think Jordan Peterson's lost a lot of cred too.
With his Valium bender, probably, yeah.
Well, I think for a whole number of reasons. I think there started to be some people who were critical, a lot of people who were critical of some of the stuff he was on about.
Yeah.
And hooray for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, where are we now? That's very red, isn't it?
We're underwater, and the water is red and radioactive.
What's that?
The water is red and radioactive. So I have to watch my radiation.
Oh, yeah. A bird says Zizek did good dismantling of Peterson. I haven't seen that. Is that guy who every so often turns up on different live streams?
Who's that?
Zizek. I'm not sure. Hi, Terra Toddler said, hey, sorry my connection cut out. Thanks for answering all my questions about Australian politics. You're welcome. I hope we did okay with that. Didi knows a lot more about Australian politics than me because she was involved in the parliament for a while there.
I was involved in it.
On the good side.
Yeah, on the good side.
NBN, yeah. Oh, Terra Toddley lives in, I think, the northeast of the US, but we have NBN problems.
Yeah.
That's why I can't really live stream it. That's why I can't really interview people live anymore, really, just because I don't trust the connection. Although this connection with gaming is pretty good. We don't have any problems with that, do we, Didi?
No, it's been pretty good.
Which is kind of good. Yeah.
The water's gone yellow. I'm starting to see.
Oh no, the water, Didi. Are you filling up the tanks?
What?
The tanks?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Oh, okay.
I figured I wasn't going to be able to monitor it, so
okay.
We're talking about the fact that we
have
tank
rainwater.
Water. We are far enough rural.
Oh no, it's buffering, Didi.
Oh no.
We're buffering. Hopefully, I don't see any buffering my end, but you don't see any buffering, do you, Dee Dee?
I don't see any buffering, but
yeah. Is anybody else experiencing buffering? Yes, Bird says, I think Peterson was promoted by powerful people. Yeah, I think so too. I think there was some dark money going on underneath there, because I often find it curious how somebody will just sort of, it seems like they appear from nowhere and suddenly they're everywhere. They're being interviewed by corporate media. They're basically everywhere. No matter where you go on social, people are talking about them, and it feels like an artificial boost of a particular individual. And then sure enough, they're always got these alt-right kind of positions about they're transphobic, they're shitting on different groups, they're anti-immigration. You know what I mean? They're all those different things, Dee Dee. Yeah. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
There'll be another one after Peterson. There'll be somebody else.
We've got a few local variants of Peterson.
Yeah, we do. That's true.
Who carry on about free speech. I mean.
Oh, hi, David. I didn't see you there. David says, watched first part of the 70s Australian film Don's Party. And it was illuminating about the Labor versus Liberal political parties in Australia.
I've never seen that.
I can't remember that. You know Don Lane?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, it must have been ages ago I saw that. God, they had some funny shows in the kind of 70s and 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
They used to have a lot of those. What was the name of that? I can't remember it now.
The one who did all the.
He used to show his behind a lot.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Did you ever see Norman Gunston though? Did you ever watch Norman Gunston? Used to be this comedian. He's still around, but he doesn't do the Norman Gunston character. And he was so funny. He actually, on the day of Gough Whitlam's dismissal, he's actually standing on the steps, and you can see Gough Whitlam behind him giving this famous speech, and he's sort of standing there, and he has little bits of toilet paper that are stuck on his face from when he cuts himself shaving, and he's got like this greasy comb over. And he was really funny, wasn't he, Dee Dee?
Yes, he was.
He was really funny. Gary McDonald was the guy who played Norman Gunston. Let me see if I can find that that thing where he's standing in front of Gough Whitlam. Let's see. I used to watch that a lot in the 70s. And he's interviewed a lot of famous celebrities. Like Alice Cooper, those kind of people. He's interviewed a lot of different people. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Norman Gunston at the dismissal.
What was the name of that comedian who did really excellent impersonations and so on?
I don't know. Was this what decade was this?
He did a lot of political impersonations. He had a show. I quite enjoyed that.
I don't know.
I've forgotten because I have to say I'm not a big television watcher.
Yeah.
I've probably seen more Australian TV on DVD since then. Yeah. Things like Love My Way and stuff like that.
Oh, I wonder why he called himself Norman Gunston.
Because it was funny.
Anyway, he said some hilarious things. If you can go and check out some of his interviews with people, they're very funny. Yeah. Like he'd interview Mick Jagger and people like that, and he just said these sort of really kind of innocently sort of just hilarious things to people, and they didn't know whether he was real or they weren't sure
Or
if he was
mockery.
actually real or he was a comedian. So they'd sort of be very confused at whether they're being interviewed by somebody who really is some sort of a journalist. It was really funny.
Yeah. It's
So
kind of a combination of The Chaser and Ali G,
yeah, kind of, but sort of yes,
but
I
without
suppose.
the racism. And
Yeah, without the racism, I think. Yeah. So David said Criterion Channel is featuring 70s Australian new wave films. I've watched a bunch. Long Weekend was the best. The Cars That Ate Paris. The Plumber is also interesting. Ah, wow, Criterion Channel. I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
Oh, Green Sky.
I've got Nandi visiting me. Hi, Nandi. Hi, Nandi.
The sky here looks a little toxic. I don't know. It's very green.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Oh yeah, Auntie Jack. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember much about Auntie Jack, but it was. Oh, excuse me, the Criterion Collection. The Criterion Collection is an American home video distribution company which focuses on licensing important classic and contemporary films. Oh yeah, founded in 1984. You probably like, what's it called? Harold and Maude.
Oh, Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude. Oh my.
What?
Well, I was just looking at that. I'm just looking at the Criterion.com. I know that French actor there. That's an interesting site, isn't it? So you actually have to buy them then.
Gunston's first appearance saw him reporting uncomfortably on a sex scandal drought in Wollongong, a drought he eventually breaks by appearing naked on camera.
What's that? What's that?
Lima Bean was saying Gunston's first appearance, Norman Gunston, saw him reporting uncomfortably on a sex scandal drought in Wollongong.
Oh, yeah.
A drought he eventually breaks by appearing naked on camera.
Oh, really?
That'd be
Yeah.
hilarious. Let's see.
Excuse me, I've never heard most of these films on the Criterion Channel. Like I just haven't heard of them. I'm so out of the loop.
You are. Oh. I thought this was all rocky, but in fact...
Huh?
I was just looking at this planet. I thought it was all rocky, but instead it's got all these little clovery things. It's listed as a paradise planet.
Oh, I see. These are quite old films, aren't they? Like 1973 and 59. Ah, yeah. This is kind of interesting. We'll have to bookmark that one. And
Oh my, look at that. Woohoo. That's a nice view.
oh, it's a streaming service, David. Okay. Well, that's good. Maybe we'll have a look at that. I'd love to see some more European films. I really like. I like the wistfulness of some French films where they just kind of the film ends and you think, what happened? I love those sort of films where it comes to the end and you think, what happened? Or it just kind of wistfully drifts off. You think, there's more to it, and then it just kind of stops. That's what I love about some of those European things. They don't, hey Didi,
Yes.
they don't have to have any sort of particular sort of closure or anything. It just kind of
Happy
drifts off.
endings or
French horror movies. I don't think I've ever seen a French horror movie. Adam? And David says some new ones too, but as old as 1910. Oh wow. That'd be interesting.
yeah.
Have you got any recommendations, David? There was a French film. It was kind of like a lesbian sort of film called Entre Nous. I can't pronounce French, really. And that was actually quite good. It was sort of like it was actually sort of a really decent romantic thing. Didi and I always always complain about the fact that anybody who ever ventures into trying to do romance between women just mostly doesn't have a clue, and they sort of do some kind of heterosexual fantasy thing of what that might be like, and it's just sort of ridiculous. So we're really waiting on sort of some film, and I won't hold my breath, where there's actually women writing who have a clue about how women tend to get together, and it's just not, it just sort of it's just it's sad, isn't it, Didi?
Yes.
And yet, you have these gay male things where they're sort of like there was an excellent representation of a male, two males having a relationship in 6 Feet Under.
Yeah.
That was
very
actually like that. They probably had the most functional relationship of all the people who were the rest of the people in there who were straight. So it was nice to just for once to see a sort of a representation of some kind of a functional relationship where it wasn't a big deal. It was actually just people having a relationship rather than, because usually
rather than it being about them being gay.
Yeah, like usually you get these tragic sort of lesbian films where they're sort of wanting to kill themselves, or they end up alone, or it always ends up tragic. I mean, honestly and truly, don't you, Didi?
Yeah.
And
it's sad.
It's just sad. It's just sad. So I don't bother. We never really even bother watching anything. I mean, I just laugh when I see some of the pictures, even like the thumbnails of these things, or you read the description, or you hear somebody's report back. I mean, even that TV series, The L Word, is some sort of a heterosexual fantasy thing of what of lesbian life, isn't it, Didi?
Of lesbian life.
It's ridiculous.
Rich lesbians.
Yeah, of rich lesbians,
fun.
And it's really, it's got there's no real basis in reality in any of it, including the representations of sex and all of that. And their
people.
second L Word is kind of still kind of similar to the first one.
It's a little bit better in some ways.
It's a little bit better in some ways, but it's just sad. And I can't remember what Queer as Folk was like. Can you, Didi?
I think the English one wasn't too bad.
Yeah, the English one wasn't too bad. But I didn't actually watch much of that. Maybe Adam did. Did you watch Queer as Folk, Adam? Yeah. Adam says yes. 6 Feet Under is
It's
phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
It is.
the representation
good.
of that. And what happened
Kind
to
of sad
that?
in the end.
What happened to that lovely male actor who played the partner, the black actor? Like, he was really good, and Michael.
It's so unfortunate.
Can't remember his
so
last
many
name.
black actors.
He just kind of vanished.
Might get a part, and then that's it.
Yeah.
They might get a good part, and then maybe little bit parts and stuff. But very few of them ever get a lot of parts. It's like that fellow who played Luke Cage. I'm not sure what he's done since then.
Oh yeah. What's his name? The guy who plays Luke Cage. I really like him.
Yeah.
What a commanding kind of a actor that guy is.
Yeah.
And
he
actually,
should be
did
able
he?
to be big, you know.
Adam
like-
was saying, if you like ambiguous endings, I highly recommend David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, and that also has lesbian themes. Really good movie. Oh yeah. Okay, well we'll have to look into that. And oh, hi Spectre, how are you? Eyes Without a Face. I haven't seen that one, but I haven't seen very many movies at all. I'm really out of the loop with a lot of
the
movies
movie
now.
loop.
I hear about like singers and rappers and stuff who die I've never even heard of, and then I find out they're dead. That kind of thing. I mean, that's how out of the loop I am. And apparently they've been around for 10 or 15 years, and I've never heard of them. So, Kim said, she said, entre nous is between us. Yep. That was a really good one. And also there was another French film called The Reader, and it had the actor Miu Miu is the name, Miou, and that was a sort of an interesting one. It was very quirky. Let me see. Anyway, Matthew St. Patrick. Yeah, that's who that guy was. He was lovely. Heavenly Creatures. I've heard about that. Don't, you'll embarrass me, Spectre. If you keep asking me if I've seen movies, I'll probably end up having to say no.
Baisse-moi was an interesting French film.
Who?
Baisse-moi.
Oh yeah, what's that?
It means basically F-U.
Oh, okay.
And it was about two sex workers who get tired of it and end up killing people.
Oh, okay. Fuck you.
Yes.
What was that name? Beautiful. I think that's a French film too. I saw that. Yeah. Baisse-moi means F me. You know, they've done it again. This is Kim has put a comment.
Yeah.
And it's hidden it, and it says show it or hide it. So I hit show, and then it'll tell me there's an error.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can't show it.
With me too.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah. They're not into showing things.
Yeah.
Like
So
even if you say it's okay.
BAISEMOI means F me. That's what Kim says.
Yeah. But that was interesting. I mean, they actually, the OFLC, our censors, said that was art.
Oh yeah.
And
tell folks about how somebody you were with at one point was in the office for what was it? The
OFLC.
The
Office of Film and Literature Classification.
Yeah, and tell them the sort of things. I don't know. Do they still have to sort of go through it all, or can they have like almost like AI go through it and sort of decide?
No, you have to go through it individually.
So Dee Dee's partner, her ex-partner.
My ex-partner used to work. She was a dancer, but she was also working, as many people who work in the arts have to do, had a second job as a classifier for the OFLC.
The Office
of Film and Literature Classification, which is basically the censors. And most of the work she did was on magazines and things like that. A lot of magazines. I mean, the Bondage Fairies and all that kind of stuff.
The what?
The Bondage Fairies.
The Bondage Fairies.
I always enjoyed the Bondage Fairies.
What are they?
They're these little fairy creatures who were always getting into trouble and having sex with caterpillars and snails. And
really? No, is this a cartoon?
It's a pornographic comic book.
Oh, it's a cartoon thing. Yeah.
It's and they always end up getting tied up or tying somebody up.
Tied up by a
Having
snail?
sex with snails and
Did he?
Yes.
Did they get tied up by?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay. I
know,
see.
And spiders and things like
Oh,
that.
okay.
'Cause they're very tiny,
Right.
but they're very sexy little. They're like
Hi, Spectre.
anime type. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And
People, but she did those. She did, of course, magazines, some which were quite entertaining, like Horsemate, I think it was,
Jesus.
and it was
Jesus.
it was a mockery of Penthouse. No, it was Penthorse.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a mockery of Penthouse, and it had pictures of horses. And
what horses? What? This wasn't a sexual book,
it
was
wasn't
it?
sexual.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it was a mockery. You know?
So why did they have to go
Well,
through that?
basically, they have to classify everything,
Jesus.
right? And most things, like a lot of things, like I think that ended up getting classified as, probably over 16 or something like that.
Really? Oh, Jesus.
But, well, because it was suggestive and stuff like that.
Was it?
And the thing is, the classifiers have to follow the law.
Yeah.
And so the
I'd like to see. I wonder if they have that online. That'd be funny.
probably,
Yeah.
but the classifiers have to follow the law,
Yeah.
and that means that some of the things that they had to do were kind of absurd. Like they of course did all the porn films and stuff.
Yeah.
And they said most of the porn films from the United States were not really problematic because they knew the rules and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, she said she could always tell if Ron Jeremy was in it, in
Right.
spite of the fact that he's turned out to be an absolute shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That in terms of porn, watching porn, if he was in it, that the film would probably okay. But part of what a classifier has to do is they actually have to go through these films
Yeah.
and write down every instance of anything sexual or innuendo or whatever,
Yeah.
and describe it within these legal technical terms.
Yeah.
And she said one of the most hideous jobs she had was 1,001 cum shots,
Oh no.
and having to watch, and it was literally just cum shot after cum shot after
no.
cum shot, and she had to describe each one,
Jesus.
and she could see that many of them were just repeats or
Yeah.
the same film, but 5 seconds later or whatever.
Yeah.
But she said because they had to do each instance, it took forever and it was horrible.
Oh, Jesus.
It wasn't horrible because it was sexual. It was horrible because it was incredibly tedious.
Yeah. Right.
But she said one of the things she noticed with a lot of the porn was that the porn actors, seemed to really enjoy it when they got to do something which had how a lot of porn films take some theme or something like that. There'll
Yeah.
be mockeries of movies
Oh,
or
yes, yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
Or she liked the ones that were like where they had to dress up as something.
Right.
It's supposed to be in the Georgian period or in
Yeah.
the medieval period.
Yeah.
And she said there was one which was, totally unproblematic, except for the fact that at the very beginning, the Lord came in and said, "Find me a concubine, or I'll have your head."
Oh, yes.
And then it proceeded on to these various things where they had sex with various women, to try and find the concubine and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said none of that was problematic in terms of the law.
Mm.
But because he said, "I'll have your head,"
Oh, yes.
that was a mixture of sex and violence, and the whole film had to be banned.
Oh,
You know,
banned.
Banned.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it had to be giving a refused classification.
Oh, really?
And they would have to either take that bit out.
Oh.
But
Another great film hits the dust.
well, she said she enjoyed watching those kind of films more than a lot of the other porn.
Yeah.
because sometimes the actors would get so into playing these characters
Yes.
that they forgot to be sexy.
Oh, yes, I see.
He said it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things, it gave me some real insight about censorship itself, too.
Right.
Like one of the films she actually did have a problem with was some gay B&D porn,
Yeah.
where they had somebody tied down and they took a double fist and slammed it onto their breastbone.
Right.
And that was supposed to give them an extra boost sexually or something.
Yeah.
But she said no, she ended up banning that one because it's a dangerous practice, and if people
Yes.
started doing that,
Yes.
somebody's liable to get hurt.
That's a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, we shouldn't get too
but
graphic with the...
one of the worst sort of things is one of the things
Hi,
the
Greg.
OFLC have to do as well.
Who?
The OFLC
Yeah.
is they have to report on and classify police seizures.
Mm.
And police seizures are often both bad films coming in
Mm.
from overseas,
Yeah.
including snuff films,
Yeah.
like actual snuff films,
Yeah.
and child pornography
Yeah.
and things like that, and where they've, arrested a pedophile
Yeah.
and they've got film,
Mm.
of, like they might have gone to family gatherings and using the cover of taking family photos, done a lot of upskirt videos of children,
Right.
and the classifiers would have to classify these things in terms of the law
Yeah.
for legal cases.
Yeah.
And she said that was really grueling. And
Yeah,
they
that would
actually
be
had,
awful. Did they spread that out?
Full-time psychologists
Yeah,
there.
but did they give that, like, they didn't give that all to one person, they spread it out, yeah?
They'd give batches to different people.
Yeah,
Somebody would have to watch, the video, the
Yeah.
entire video.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be hideous.
And maybe several videos from one source or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Uh,
So if they actually got something from the police that was like a whole bunch of, I think we should probably call it CP. CP instead of what, because apparently CP isn't picked up by algorithms so easily.
what?
CP.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of those two words,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean. So
Yeah.
would they pick that up and then give it to the Office for Literature and Sense, whatever?
Yes, basically anything that was
police?
going to be used by the police at all as evidence
Right.
had to go through the OFLC
How
and be
unfortunate.
classified.
Wouldn't
So
that be awful?
for senior classifiers, which she ended up being, they end up getting all of the police seizures. So that's really grim stuff. And you can see why. I mean, some of the things she told me about, you can see why some things should be banned.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech, and all that stuff. Freedom
Yeah.
of the press. Nah, there's limits to that. What
Yeah,
should
yeah.
be put out, particularly for commercial purposes, but even
Yeah.
for home use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably
Anyway,
change
that's a kind
this.
of grim and disgusting
Yeah,
subject.
change the subject.
But
I thought it'd be interesting for people to hear because it's something you don't hear much about.
no,
That people actually work there and what they
Yeah.
have to do and
but
how awful
but
that is.
she and the other classifiers actually, classified Baisse Moi as fine. They said it was
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
And there was an uproar from Brian Herodine and other people
Right.
demanding that this be classified, refused classification. It's, pornographic and awful, and
I think I might have seen that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was around for a
Yeah,
short period of
as
time.
Did he? Spectre said, I hope the pay was good. It probably wasn't, though, sadly.
No, it wasn't terribly good.
No.
No.
You'd think it would be though,
Yeah.
because that would be an awful
Yeah.
job, because you'd have lingering PTSD from seeing
Some of that
CP.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
the awfulness of
Yeah.
that.
Or some of the real non-consensual.
I hope they had a lot of
violent
people
things.
working there. Did they?
They had a fair number of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting. You think of censors as these sort of school marms who are going, but that's not exactly how it is.
No.
They had a diversity of people.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, because that your ex-partner wasn't a prude or anything,
yeah.
was she?
Absolutely not.
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a wild job guest preventing distribution of snuff films.
Anyway, probably
There's
should.
a public benefit. There is.
Wait.
And some of the things, they also did things like classified The Rock, which was that one with...
Oh, yes, with The Rock.
Who all did it have? It
was
Sean
actually The
Connery.
Rock was in it, wasn't
Sean,
it?
it was Sean Connery and what's that guy who did Snake Eyes?
I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway,
Oh, you mean?
famous? It's a mainstream film.
Yeah.
It was about Alcatraz, The Rock,
Right. Yeah.
and Sean Connery was in it and stuff like that. And
Yeah. Who was
Anyway.
married to Lisa Marie Presley for a while?
anyway, it was they actually said
Sounds like Jeopardy, doesn't it?
they actually had issues with some of it because it was so graphic when they pushed the
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Was
yeah,
that it?
When
Yeah,
they pushed somebody off a cliff, and he was pierced by, he fell onto some sort of a spike or a rebar or something,
Yeah.
and it pierced through. And they did this real graphic, slow motion,
Oh, did
blood,
they?
disgusting thing, and
Oh,
they just
no.
said, no. This is completely
Yeah.
unnecessary
Yeah.
for the story. And so they said, we'll classify it. You have to be at least 18, which
Right.
would have really stuffed up their box office thing.
Yeah.
So they ended up taking that bit out
Oh, yeah.
so that it could be classified,
Right.
PG or something.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes, the completely unnecessary, gratuitous, graphic violence, it's great. It's okay for them to censor that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
really
know.
need
We
to
might
see-
think that, but I know people seem to really love graphic violence
yeah,
now.
sure, but is that a reason to? People love pornography too. People love all kinds of awfulness.
Yeah.
And if you let people,
But don't you think there's
there
stuff
are people
that's
who
almost
like
steady?
CP. What?
But don't you think that there's much worse than that you're describing that is now just for general consumption now?
Yeah.
I think that the laws must have changed a lot because the amount of graphic violence there is, even in those games, the video games, like people exploding all over and their guts all over the place and stuff.
Well, I think it comes down to the judgment of the classifiers. And when they do something like refuse classification or do a problematic classification.
God, we crap on, don't we?
Yeah. When they do it like a refusal of classification or a negative classification of a mainstream movie with Nicolas Cage and stuff in it, then, it goes to the senior classification people. And the other classifiers look at it and either agree or disagree.
Yeah.
They discuss it. It's not just down to one person.
No. Do you remember that movie, speaking of Nicolas Cage, Leaving Las Vegas? God, that was a really good movie, but my God, it was grim. It was so grim.
Yeah.
It was really good, though.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I'm not familiar with the movie was being shot. I didn't realize how poorly it's being done. Let's see. David says, wild job. Guess when you are preventing distribution of snuff films, this is a public benefit. Yeah. Greg said Mulholland Drive. I'm not sure what. Sorry. Adam said Mulholland Drive. I'm not sure what all happened behind the scenes. Greg said, well, my reference to, quote, real life, end quote, was about 2020. And then Greg said, excuse me, poorly produced to say the least and very expensive. Yes.
Shall I
So
build a house
I
here?
don't think I would fare very well if I had to do that kind of stuff.
That kind of
Even
work.
talking about, even hearing just descriptions of things sometimes is kind of hideous.
Yeah.
Would they actually have to watch animals being abused and shit like that? That would be terrible. I couldn't cope with that. You know, there are people on Facebook, the Facebook people who screen the videos and stuff before they get put up or taken down. I mean, they have a dreadful job. I read this description of the sort of that they have to take a 15-minute break every hour, and they have a psychologist on site. But it's like it's just non-stop. You know, the awfulness. People like there's suicide things, and there's animal. Kind of abuse things, and there's child porn stuff, and it's just a non-stop onslaught of awfulness, and of course, as usual, they're sort of they're not really looked after properly.
Yeah.
And they're in a bad way. There was a whole article on it of what the people who are monitoring Facebook, what their sort of employment life. I'll see if I can find it. It's just hideous, and I think, oh my God. Yes, Kim says hearing about CP is traumatizing on its own. Yeah, sure is. Anyway, does anybody from the US know what's happening with that bill now that the $2,000 has passed, but it has to go across Mitch McConnell's desk? And I'm just wondering what's happening. Is Mitch McConnell going to stick his neck out and veto it, and risk losing the Georgia elections? Or is he? Or he doesn't care and he's going to veto it, or is he going to not risk that kind of embarrassment and go ahead with it? Okay, Kim.
Okay.
Kim's going away for 15 minutes.
Okay.
So anyway, I'd just be interested if anybody knows anything about that, or is that going to be kind of something we're not going to hear about for a little while? Not sure what Mitch will do, but I bet he'll shut it down. Yeah, David, I watched this Carl Kalinske thing. Let me see if I can find it, because Carl Kalinske was saying that Bernie Sanders was putting his foot down finally, and was said that he wasn't going to vote for the military thing or something like that. He was going to hold back on something, and which meant. And until they actually did something about the $2,000, and let me see if I can find it.
Some sort of something.
Yeah. So this was like 6 hours ago. Hang on a sec. 6 hours ago, breaking House passes $2,000 stimulus checks. Wait a minute. So he talks about how Bernie Sanders is actually using some leverage here.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we'll see. Sanders and Markey are going to filibuster to get it voted. That's right. And they were saying they weren't going to let people go home until something happened on it. Yeah. Yeah, but apparently there's been a further. It's up to 2,000 now, Greg, I think. Anyway, Spectre says, I was flippant about the porn, but CP is traumatizing. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
I think that's just a Trump sign. Oh, okay then, Spectre. That's funny. Spectre says it's buffering away. I don't actually think it's buffering here. I think it's okay. Is it buffering for
Is it
anybody else?
buffering
But
for other
anyway,
people?
thanks for dropping by, Spectre.
Yeah, I hope it's not buffering too much.
Is it buffering for anybody else? Usually we seem to keep a pretty stable connection, don't we,
Yeah,
Dee Dee? Which is
yeah.
surprising.
Surprising.
Bird
indeed.
says it's fine. It's been fine for me. Oh, that's good. Yeah, anyway, fingers crossed about the 2000. I know that I'm just going by what somebody said 6 hours ago, Greg, which was the Carl Kalinski's thing, said that they'd upped it to 2000, but and Bernie Sanders was going to, try and make people vote on it by preventing people from going off on holidays. Is he filibustering now? I wonder if he is. Or if that it's actually nighttime now, isn't it? They don't filibuster all night, do they, Diddy?
I don't know. They might. Who knows? I'm not sure what their procedure is, what they're allowed to do and what they aren't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I'm so tired today. God, it's so pathetic. I think everything's catching up with me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a big period.
They have filibustered all night before. Yeah, that's what I would have thought, hey.
That's fun.
You have to keep on, you can't just start talking about a story about something, can you? You have to keep on
talking about the subject.
Talking about the subject. Wow, that must be bizarre.
Yeah.
How do you manage if you have to go to the toilet? Can you take a toilet break?
No toilet.
No, really,
breaks
can
for
you,
me.
Didi?
I don't know. Cool.
They were going to try and remove that sort of filibustering process, weren't they?
Yeah, for different things. I think they've done it for some things where they can say no filibustering.
Adam says, I'm so pissed about the entire Bernie Sanders movement and what it's become, so disheartening. Yeah, but I think since then though, Greg, since that 600 thing, something has happened, and now it's 2000. That's from what I'm going by Kyle Kalinske, because he usually is very good with that sort of domestic electoral politics thing, and that's what he said only 6 hours ago, and he said that it's now 2000, and now it's going to, and Bernie Sanders has got some leverage. That's what I heard, and he's usually pretty correct with that sort of thing. He's usually sort of follows that kind of thing. And David says Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a 50s film that has a good filibuster scene. You can't even sit down, no toilet breaks. Oh, wow. What did folks get in Australia? I think we got about 1,800 and something a month.
What?
In Australia. That's for people who were sort of couldn't work, but they had employment. But people who were unemployed, they were only getting like, what was it, for?
Previously.
No, this is for the COVID thing.
For the COVID thing.
They were getting, what were they getting for?
2,000 a month.
2,000 a month?
Yeah,
these are unemployed
like
people.
Pensioners.
Yeah, so
they
were.
They increased it for 6 months.
So this is Australian dollars too.
Previously, they had been getting half of that.
Yes, so they were getting under the poverty line. These are people that are unemployed, and it's actually got inbuilt.
They haven't raised the unemployment thing.
No, for 15 years. Is it 15 or 25?
25 years.
25 years, yeah. It's disgraceful. And this includes the effing Labor Party. Hasn't been helpful there. 25 years they haven't increased the unemployment benefits. So people are on unemployment benefits, and there's inbuilt unemployment in Australia. So, it's forced unemployment, really, in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're actually on below the poverty line, and now they put them up a bit, and then they're talking about after the COVID thing, then putting them back under the poverty line again.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that fabulous?
Jesus Christ, I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, the Australians who were employed and either have lost their employment, isn't it, Dee Dee?
Yeah.
Or they're,
the people who have been let go for COVID.
It's about 1,800 and something a month.
Yeah.
And that's Australian.
I think they get more than that.
Do they?
I think they get at least as much as unemployment.
No, I'm talking about which ones are you talking about?
I'm talking about people who've been let go.
Right.
I think they get more than people on unemployment.
Oh, yes. Yes, the people who let go.
And they get 2,000.
But the people who are currently on unemployment before COVID, they only got
1,000
a month. Yeah,
before
and that's
COVID. Now they
that's
get
right, before
2,000.
COVID. That's Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roughly. Roughly.
Roughly. Yeah. Yeah. But
people, roughly $1,000.
People that were put off, though, don't they get like? I don't know. I thought I read somewhere that
people have been put off work. I think they get more than people who are unemployed, even with the COVID
anyhow,
thing.
they've been they do, and they've been getting stuff ever since it started. Yeah. They've been getting payments.
They've been done 2 big payments to everybody on a benefit.
Yeah, everybody who's on a benefit has gotten 2 big payments of what?
$750.
$750 Australian dollars each
That's
time.
in addition to the money that they get.
And then at Christmas, $250, I think, or something, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Something like that.
Yay.
Yeah, so, it's not a jump up and down, clappy hands or anything, but it's something. It's certainly better than the US.
Yeah. Yeah. It's enough to get by.
It's enough to get by. It's not breaking any records or anything, and I would hate to have a mortgage or something like that. Like, luckily, Dee Dee and I don't have a mortgage, thank God. Hey, Dee Dee.
Yeah.
We've got this outright sort of thing.
We bought some land.
We bought this outright.
Slowly building.
Well, we bought the land outright, and then we've slowly been building and stuff.
For years.
For years. But it's, it's better than renting.
It is.
But anyway, so let's see.
Oh, no.
Greg says, Bernie convinced me that, and I call Dragai Greg because that's what his real name is. Bernie convinced me that politics is entirely dysfunctional after 15 years off-grid, after being convinced by H.W. Bush and Clinton that it was entirely dysfunctional in 1991 and 92. That the more I learn about some major people in Bernie's campaigns convinces me it was all a ruse to get progressives to vote corporate Dem in the end.
Yes, that's what we call being a Judas goat.
Yeah, David.
Which is where they used to use goats to lead
animals
sheep
into the slaughterhouse.
Into slaughterhouses.
And we need to all join together and take power away from exploitative a-holes. Yeah, David says.
Absolutely.
Yep. And sounds inadequate, but better than the USA. Yep, for sure. Congrats on owning outright. Yes, I'm not a fan, and of course nobody really has that. Fortunately, we had that ability to do that, didn't we, Dee Dee?
Yeah.
And yet we're actually, despite that, we're still living kind of it's just a shoestring thing, isn't it, Dee Dee? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. You can actually not be paying rent, but still be kind of really struggling. It's like,
Yes.
thank goodness we're not paying rent, because I don't know, it'd just be awful, wouldn't it, Dee Dee?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, we still
Absolutely.
go out and we buy one coffee and we share it. That's like
Yeah.
that's what it's like, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Um,
And we're
There's
just
no
happy
going
that
to
we
the
have-
movies or anything like that, is there, Dee Dee?
No.
No doing anything fancy, not going away.
No. We don't really eat out or anything
We
like
we
that.
buy our stuff from the local tip shop, which is like the dump. There's a shop that they have at the tip where people take their rubbish, and the people will bring different things that are sort of
Basically, it's things that people are throwing
things
away.
they're throwing away. But there actually, you find some really good little things in there, like
Yeah.
that now are actually really expensive to buy. So that's our shopping outing, is going to the tip shop and buying stuff
Going
there.
to the tip. Yeah.
Because we're fancy.
Yeah.
um,
And we found some nice light fixtures.
yeah,
and
we
stuff
found
and
some nice light
saved a fair bit of
fixtures at the
money.
tip shop.
Yeah.
And what else did we find?
Because otherwise, it's just light globes hanging from the string.
Yeah. So let's see. And Greg said, in the USA, we're told by the actions that speak louder than words that there is only money for the rich and corporations. Oh, we've been going for 2 hours now.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to just keep going and going. It's lovely, really. I really
Nandi's
enjoy...
complaining. Didi, can you give him something?
I really enjoy talking to people, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's Didi's birthday tomorrow.
it's my birthday
Yay!
tomorrow. We'll probably do a live stream just so I can
birthday
talk to our friends.
You.
Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Our friends are all online or far away.
Oh, we have a few friends offline,
yeah,
but we
do-
just
we do
don't
have
get to
friends
see
that are
them much
offline.
lately. You know what I wish we had? I wish we had some chips.
Oh, well.
Oh, excuse me. I
You
wish
mean
we had
like
some
crisp
potato
chips
chips.
or
Hey?
homemade chips.
Oh, just some naughty potato chips.
Yeah,
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
yeah.
After this live stream, we might have to take a drive into town and
We have to do some shopping
get some
anyway.
shopping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, so there's this other guy who was also predicting this situation on Katie Halper. I haven't watched this, but people might like to look at that because it sort of explains some of the shenanigans that are going on about this $2,000. Let me just, they just did a little thing just before an hour ago. So hang on. This might fill in more of the information. I haven't seen it.
What's that?
This thing from Katie Halper. Oh no, hang on. This is something else. Force the other vote. Oh, okay. Yes. This is the other thing. This is the $2,000 thing. This guy gives interesting views. So, somebody. It was Yasha Levine. You've heard of Yasha Levine, haven't you, Bird or Adam? Anyway, he said something about how David Sirota, Bernie Sanders' advisor, has sort of in some ways taken over the email list and has been sort of using it for his sort of Substack kind of thing, which I don't know. Let me read this bit, which is kind of not great. let's see. Um, and I don't know if you were there the other day and we were talking about this, but Brianna Joy Gray and her Chapo Trap House co-host, they're getting about $35,000 a month.
How is that possible?
I mean, oh my God. Anyway, right at the end here with this particular Yasha Levine article, it says, where is that bit about something about David Sirota? Okay, so I don't know, where is it? And then it said, Yasha Levine says, quote, Bernie's revolution was really nothing other than an electoral campaign after all, and that campaign and all the organizational energy it harnessed dissolved immediately with his candidacy. What did it leave behind? Not much other than huge platforms for a few top influencers and political operatives who leveraged the burn into lucrative Patreon and Substack careers. Who am I talking about? Well, people like David Sirota, who seems to have taken his official Bernie campaign Substack newsletter and privatized its massive email list post-election for personal profit. Or his comrade Brianna Joy Gray, who just launched a podcast with a Chapo co-host that's already raking in more than $35,000 a month. Meanwhile, the people whose interests these two Bernie operatives had represented, the millions who gave Bernie a few bucks, are being immiserated more and more. So this and Mike Casca, who was one of Bernie Sanders' personal advisors too, I think, he said, damn right, this is on Twitter, damn right, he retweets one of David Sirota's tweets and he says, damn right, real change happens when you steal an email list from the campaign and use it to create your own paid newsletter. Why can't anyone see that? Anyway, subscribe if you can. Because, yeah, so anyway, that's, I don't know, that's what I heard, that David Casca was one of Bernie Sanders' people. Anyway, that's the link to that tweet. Yeah, Yasha Levine, he is vicious. He does the real scorched earth, doesn't he? So that's not great that he's using that. I mean, why, this is the incredibly sad thing. Why on earth, Bernie Sanders, well, he's been silent about the force the vote thing, but Bernie Sanders has also, he could have used his email list for all sorts of good things. He could have asked people to do a general strike, but he's not. And that's what makes me wonder whether he's going to run again in 2024, because he's still pandering, isn't he? He's still pandering to that god-awful party, isn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't want to upset them. He'd probably still call Joe Biden his good friend and all that sort of thing. So that's why I'm wondering, is he gonna run again, or is he just wants to be in there until he dies, and he doesn't want to, he doesn't want any blowback from anything. I don't know. But anyway, it's just awful, really. I think
it is.
Terra Toddler has vanished again. I don't know if he had trouble with staying on the thing. Or we're prattling on too much. I don't know.
Yes, it's because we're prattling on too much.
So, what is that? Are those two strands of green there, Didi?
They're pipes.
The what?
They're pipes. I'm mining some gas and some minerals,
Oh, okay.
and they come up to here. This will end up having oxygen in it.
What's that?
I'm mining oxygen.
Oh, okay.
There's a gas place down there. And this is mining sodium.
Anyway, I think that was all I was thinking about mentioning. We might wrap it up in about half an hour, hey Didi?
Yeah.
So that we can go shopping.
Yeah.
Or 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Let me see if there was something I found interesting that I wanted to mention. Oh, and I was listening to Eyes Left podcast with the title "Inward Looking Inward and Going Forward," and Mike Preisner, who is an Iraq veteran. Yeah, I'm not. What
I built myself
Adam
a
was
little
saying?
house.
Hey?
I built myself a little house here. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a look, and you can see it. It's got nice views.
It's called Looking Inward, Going Forward, and it was actually a really interesting little chat they were doing there. Adam says, what is the goal of this game?
There isn't one.
Is this a campaign mode or more of an open world tasks?
It's an open. The game starts out with the goal of survival, and very quickly turns into a game of exploration. And so I've been. Once you start exploring, you just go around and around and around to various planets and so on, and discover stuff. And it's really simple. And it's kind of entertaining. You can classify a whole bunch of things, and you might find a better spaceship, and you might find a better freighter, and yeah, it's just a funny little game. You're not killing anything really, and that's kind of nice. And
does anybody? Oh, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when it's a bit easier for Didi to talk if she doesn't have to be focusing.
Don't have to be worrying, and it's pretty. And there's all kinds of little animals you can meet and feed.
Yeah.
And you go around, there's space stations, and you can go out into the galaxy, and there's all kinds of good stuff. So,
yes, it's more just visuals while talking, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's building, so I guess it's that sim kind of thing. It's as I said, initially it's survival, but now I have a teleportation thing where I can teleport to other places. I'll show you how that works. But I've got this nice little house here. You can have a little house somewhere or other.
That's a nice little house, yeah.
Oh,
and that's a nice view.
What?
That's a nice view.
Yeah. And this is a paradise planet, so it's not radioactive or really hot or burning or freezing cold or barren or anything like that. there's all these little animals. Hello, little guy. And you can give these guys food. You know. He's afraid of me. Ah, don't be afraid.
What's that?
Don't be afraid. Oh, here he
Who's
comes.
afraid? This little guy.
Let me make some food.
He says, I'm going to get the hell out of here.
Okay, offer food. There you go. See? He's eating something now. Now he's happy and he's going to be my friend. Hi.
Yeah, he's very sweet. Did he just throw something at you?
No.
Okay.
He's interested in a new friend. And
Oh,
I
he's
could
gonna
ride
come
him, but I don't do that because I'm a vegan.
Is he coming up to befriend you?
Yeah. See? Look,
that's
recently
very
fed,
sweet.
interested in a new friend. I gave him some food.
Oh,
You know.
sweet.
And that's the thing. You can make friends with these guys,
Yeah,
and
very sweet.
it's really nice. Yeah, I've got my little house here.
I think, is
for
he
those-
waiting for something else?
Oh, no, he's just being my friend now. There's some poo down there, you can see.
You have to collect poo.
If I want to, I can go
Jesus.
down and collect
What
poo.
do you do with the poo again?
Oh, you just store it.
Of course you do.
Of course you do. Oh, it's rolling down the hill. Oh, my.
Hey?
Okay, it's rolling down the hill. I'm
Oh,
not going to go chase it.
is that it?
Well, it's way down there somewhere at the bottom of this
okay.
hill, of this mountain. Oh, look, there's some more here. 60. Oh, look, there's one rolling. See the
Rolling
poo,
like a roll.
poo rolling down the hill. It's funny. You get Faecium, which you can actually use for making some things,
Right.
for growing plants. I could start a little garden if I wanted to,
Oh,
and
yeah.
grow stuff here.
Nice.
And sometimes you need a bit of poo to help you do that.
Yeah. What's the name of this planet? It's very pretty.
This planet, I don't know that I've named it anything.
I don't know
Let's see.
if I had to
It's
if I had
called
to go to another
Utsi
planet.
7.
If I had to
or
go to another
AOC 12.
planet, I'd really miss Earth, unless it looked like something like this. But I don't think I could survive very easily in a psychological sense just looking at barren, fields through barren dirt through a plate glass, through a window.
Okay. The planet's named Green Mountains.
Adam said, I like sci-fi games, but I tended to stay away from them because they are typically isolating. Lots of games in space tend to be super isolating.
Well, I can...
Well, they won't be taking you to Mars, Adam.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll go to the space station.
Anyway, Michael
and go meet some
Preisner.
gack.
Michael Preisner was talking about in that link I put in there how he's gotten to the point where he can't stand guns anymore. It's sort of he just can't stand them, which is interesting because that's something that's recently happened to him. Not that he loved guns, but now he just and
Has an
he
aversion.
he and
Abby.
Spencer Rapone. They're both veterans. One's from Afghanistan and Michael Preisner's from Iraq. And they both sort of feel that way now about guns, and they kind of talk about how, how I mentioned in one of the videos how it seems like the only way to prevent violence at a protest is for the left, some of the left, to have some parity in weapons, like actually open carry. And it seemed like that was probably the only way you could stop these bullies from attacking you from the far right. But apparently, well, and even though they're not against self-defense, but they sort of feel like it starts to play into the narrative of the empire where, and also the way the country began with, the Second Amendment, where people were using guns to kill uprising slaves and to kill indigenous people, and they sort of said, it's staying within that paradigm sort of thing. but then they're also not averse to self-defense either. But I think they were criticizing too the thing that happened in Seattle, where there were people who had their own little outpost, the supposed leftists who had guns, and they had checkpoints and everything. And apparently there was 4 people injured, and two of them were killed. One of them they thought was a Trump supporter, but they weren't. And I think 2 people got killed. I didn't follow that little sort of outpost, which I forget what they called it. What did they call it, Dee Dee? That place that was like was it in Washington State? You know how they had there was a group of people.
Oh, those people.
Yeah.
What was that in called? Washington, or was it
Seattle?
In Montana or something?
No. Seattle. Anyway, so anyhow, I can't remember where that was. Anyhow, so they gave some interesting insights in that podcast episode about how they felt about that. And then Adam said, one of my favorite games is Super Metroid. It takes place in space and absolutely amazing, very isolating and scary.
Yeah.
And he says, if I had to go to another planet, I would guillotine Elon Musk, and little laughy faces.
Yeah.
And Adam said, I want to go to Mars only if we can guillotine Eon. And Birdworld just puts a little...
Yes.
I don't know what that symbol is. It's got a little heart with things coming out of it and a little kind of a person underneath it. I guess that means a sort of a hugs. Chaz, that's it. Chaz, that was the name of that area.
Oh, yeah.
And then David Kapoor said, I don't want guns at left-wing protests. PSL, Answer Coalition, and BLM LA protests have such good, peaceful, optimistic energy without guns. Yeah, I saw some black... I don't know, there was these black guys in kind of military looking outfits who were leading the protest in Minneapolis. They were sort of they were open carrying, and then there was all the protesters behind them. So I don't know. I just sometimes I know what you're saying, David. Just sometimes I think it kind of makes, because these a lot of these far right guys are total bullies. If they can beat the crap out of unarmed people, or if they see that there's no parity there, they'll kind of really go for it, won't they, Didi?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But of course it can be, if you've got a bunch of heavily armed people on either side, it can end up being a bit of a bloodbath, really.
Yeah. Just for anybody's interest.
Oh, wow, look at this guy. Me. Oh, this is you.
This is me.
And Adam said, I'm personally comfortable around guns. I've never been anti-gun per se. I just can't stand the lack of regulation against them. Yeah, fortunately we don't have a love of guns here. No. People do have them, and
some people are into them.
Yeah, some people are into them, but it's not at all common, is it, Didi?
No.
It's like you would
it's
be.
Not like the US.
There was only one time in my entire life where I was doing some market research, and I went into this person's house, and they had a gun on the table that they were cleaning, and that made me really uncomfortable, because it's so rare. I think I've never ever seen a gun in anyone's house, or anybody admitting to having guns. It's just not a thing, because most people, there's no need to have them. The police carry them, of course, but they very rarely ever pull a gun on anybody, do they, Didi?
No.
It's not something that they do. It's not something that's...
Well, that's because people don't really have guns.
Yeah, we don't have guns, so they don't have to be worried.
You don't need to pull a gun on people if no one has a gun.
They do in America. They pull people.
I said here.
Here, yeah. They don't pull guns on people.
It's a bit like England here. I mean, I don't know what it's like in England now, but they didn't used to have many cops with guns, and they didn't pull guns on people.
Yeah,
generally.
yeah.
That's not their first instinct anyway,
No.
and it seems to be in
Yeah,
the
you never
US.
have to worry about anyone, any cop, if they pull you over. I mean, of course, I'm a white person, but I don't think it's common anyway, like, cops pulling guns on people.
Where?
Here.
In Australia,
Yeah.
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 I think even if you're
Which would-
Aboriginal, and again, in that case, people who are Indigenous are way overrepresented in prisons.
Yeah, they
and
are.
in
That's right.
Courts and
Yeah, and there's
that
a lot of
racism
suicides.
exists.
A lot of youth suicides in Indigenous populations here. Kind of crazy.
But they don't use guns.
No. No, so
The
that's...
police don't use guns to.
I was kind of horrified. I don't know what possessed me, but I was looking for some work. I've told this story before. Didi knows it.
Yeah.
About when I was in my 20s and stuff. I was thinking of joining the Air Force. I don't know why. I think it was because I heard that you could be a registered nurse in the Air Force, which made you a captain or something. I don't know. And I remember going into the office to be interviewed, and they said, so you'll have to learn how to shoot a gun and stuff, because you'll have to be able to protect your patients. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to shoot other people so I can protect somebody else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, oh no, I can't do that, and I kind of left.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Adam says, oh my God, we had one patient who was a toddler who got shot because someone was cleaning their gun without checking that it was empty.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, that happens way
A
too
lot.
much, where children end up getting killed because their parents have a gun in the house, and the child finds it and is curious and interested, and
Yeah.
and ends up picking it up and
Yeah.
killing somebody, themselves or someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with guns. Living in New Mexico on a ranch and stuff like that, we had guns there. But interestingly, the kids there, if they saw somebody with a gun,
Mm.
they asked, what are you going to kill?
Right.
And they knew that guns were killing things.
Yeah.
And they didn't like them particularly. They were very cautious of them because they knew they killed things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like I certainly wouldn't recommend having guns around kids or any of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of awful, the whole thing.
Yeah. Yes, and then that becomes the sort of thing when somebody breaks into your house, that sort of thing. Oh, well, if I have a gun, I'll be able to protect myself. Yeah, after you get it out of your cabinet, you say, hold on a minute, Mr. Burglar. Let me just go to my cabinet. Oh, no, I've forgotten my password. Or where's the key? I mean, you know what I mean? Didi.
Yeah.
Unless you're
Yeah.
walking around the house with one on your
Well,
hip.
somebody said, if you have a fantasy of having your gun in a holster, waterproof holster in the shower, and somebody coming in. Apparently, they make these things.
Oh, really?
Somebody coming in and you're whipping out and catching you in the shower, and you whip out your gun and shoot them. I mean, that's
Jesus.
fantasy. That's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Greg
on
says
the
in the-
ranch, people used guns to kill animals mainly.
Yeah, yeah. In
which
the US.
I don't think is at all good. I'm a vegan.
Yeah. Greg says in the USA, being in a car puts us at the disposal of the gun-wielding police, the first choice for, quote, enforcement, end quote, and ironically, those that choose to use it are not skilled or rational. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Didi, I think we probably need to wrap up because we need to go before it gets dark to the
Okay.
shop.
Yeah.
But we might be back tomorrow around the same time, 3 p.m. or 2:30 p.m. Eastern Australian Daylight Savings Time. So we might see you back here again if you're around and you have nothing to do and you just want to listen to us prattle on, or prattle between one another,
Yes.
and just chat between ourselves. It's always fun. And actually, that will be your birthday, won't it, Dee Dee?
That'll be my
So we may do that on Dee Dee's birthday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I enjoy talking to people.
and we can all wish her a happy birthday. And so anyway, it's been lovely. You know, Bird, I always remember you from everywhere. You put out these sweet little these sweet little emojis with the smiley faces with the little hands and that always reminds me of you when I see those little emojis. I always think of you.
Yeah.
Because you always use them and they're very sweet.
Yeah. Ellen says I could never kill animals. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's an awful thing.
So anyway, it's been lovely seeing you all, and thanks, Greg, to you, and thanks, Jeffrey. I hope you're okay, Jeffrey. We have good thoughts for you, and Bird, and David, and Tara Toddler, and Kim, and it's like the magic mirror, isn't it, Dee Dee? And Spectre is winning, had to go. So anybody else who might have been lurking, there's about 12 people watching, and I don't know how many are in the talk. But anyway, so thanks Kim for joining. So anyway, have a lovely time until we see you again. Stay safe, and we send much love to you. So I might let you end this, Dee Dee.
Okay. Well, here I am in the space station. It's not always isolating here in space.
Jeffrey's sending a happy birthday cakes to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll let you wind up, Dee Dee.
Okay. Well,
okay, we might see you tomorrow or soon anyway.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and it was really fun seeing everybody and being here.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.
End.